Welcome to today's deep dive. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt like profoundly lonely, even when your partner or your best friend is actively trying to help you fix a problem?
Oh, absolutely. It's such a common experience.
Right, like picture this. You come to them completely stressed out, your world feels like it's collapsing, and they just immediately leap into action.
They're making the spreadsheets.
Yes, spreadsheets, five-step solutions, they are doing absolutely everything right on paper. And yet you're sitting there feeling completely, utterly disconnected from them.
It is, it's deeply confusing when you're in the middle of it because intellectually, you know they're supporting you.
Yeah, they're literally putting in the work.
Exactly. But in your body, something essential feels completely absent. It feels like you're in two completely different rooms.
Right. And it turns out there's a profound, albeit rarely named distinction in human relationships that explains exactly why this happens.
It's the difference between relying on someone and laying with someone.
Yeah, and confusing the two is often why we feel so isolated, even when we're sitting right next to the person we love most.
Right.
So today, our mission on this deep dive is to fundamentally rethink how you relate to the people closest to you. We're going to look at how to move beyond just being useful to one another.
And how to access a much deeper, much more radical kind of intimacy.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand this new framework, we first have to look at our baseline. Like, how do we typically view relationships?
Right.
If you look at the architecture of how we love, our absolute default setting is reliance.
And architecture is actually the perfect word for it, because when you rely on someone, you are essentially engaged in an act of engineering.
Like constructing a building.
Yes, exactly. You're constructing a structure, you look at another person, you subconsciously evaluate their history of follow-through, their consistency.
With strength.
Right, their strength.
Yeah.
And you make a decision to place your weight on them. You are turning them into a load-bearing wall in the house of your life.
Which means there is a transactional skeleton underneath the relationship.
Yeah.
Now, transactional sounds incredibly cold, like you're doing business with your spouse.
It does sound harsh, yeah.
But it really just means there is a supplying party and a receiving party. Like, there is a gap in me, and your presence fills that gap.
Right. I am terrible at remembering to buy paper towels, so you always remember the paper towels.
Or you get overwhelmed by fixing the Wi-Fi, so I fix the Wi-Fi. We fit our puzzle pieces together.
And we really have to be clear here. This transactional skeleton is not inherently a bad thing.
Not at all.
In fact, psychologists have argued for decades that healthy attachment requires this exact capacity.
Because interdependence is, like, woven into our biology.
It is. You have to be able to reach out in distress and trust that the other person is going to meet you. I mean, if an infant cannot rely on a caregiver to feed them or soothe them, they literally cannot develop a coherent, stable sense of self.
We need to know that someone will catch us when we fall.
Right. So we absolutely need it to survive. But here is the critical limitation. Reliance has a ceiling.
A ceiling.
Yeah. When reliance becomes the primary or even the only mode of intimacy in a relationship, it traps both people in highly specific, rigid roles.
One person is perpetually the provider, and the other is perpetually the recipient.
Exactly. And even if it's perfectly mutual, even if you constantly take turns being the pillar for each other, it is still a relationship defined by interlocking functions.
So the underlying question humming beneath every single interaction always boils down to one thing. Are you going to hold?
Yes. Are you going to hold?
It's like building a house. You absolutely need those load-bearing walls to survive the winter.
Definitely.
But if your entire relationship consists of just walking around with a clipboard, constantly checking if the walls are going to collapse, you never actually get to enjoy living in the room. You are just perpetually auditing the architecture.
Auditing the architecture. That is such a great way to put it.
It just sounds exhausting.
Because think about what that auditing actually feels like in practice. It is exhausting. Even when the wall is holding strong, your energy is entirely consumed by the verification of its strength.
And that lingering question of will you hold leaves a massive blind spot in our intimate lives.
It really does. If you are only ever relating to someone based on their structural integrity, what they can do for you or what you can do for them, you miss the actual person.
Which brings us to the radical alternative. If reliance is about building the house, this second posture is about finally just living in the room.
This is the concept of laying with someone.
And notice the shift in the preposition there. It's not laying on someone, it's laying with them.
The physical imagery is crucial to understanding the psychology here.
Hmm.
When you lay on someone, your body is pressing down.
You're applying weight.
Right. You are demanding support, and their body has to brace to receive you. But when you lay with someone, your body is simply moving alongside theirs.
It's no longer a structure you're testing, it is a shared field you're occupying.
Exactly. Now, obviously, the phrase laying with has erotic origins. We know that.
Right, it involves that full animal proximity of another body, skin, breath, warmth.
It bypasses cognitive thought completely.
Yeah.
I mean, you aren't analyzing a spreadsheet when you're tangled up in the sheets with someone?
But what I found so compelling about this concept in the essay is how heavily it applies to completely non-sexual moments.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
talking about moments of profound grief, severe illness, deep exhaustion, or honestly just the plain ordinariness of a Tuesday morning before work.
The posture of being alongside rather than being useful to. Let's look at a truly pivotal example from the text to illustrate this, because it highlights the difference perfectly.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine your life is falling apart. You've lost your job or you're going through a massive crisis. Consider the difference between the friend who shows up with a beautifully color-coded, well-researched list of therapists in your network.
God, I am that friend.
All right, the fixer, versus the friend who simply comes over, doesn't say a single word, and just sits on the floor in the dark with you.
I have to admit, I really struggle with this. I am the list maker. If I see you hurting, my immediate overwhelming instinct is to solve the problem. I want to fix it.
Of course you do.
And honestly, if I were just sitting in the dark doing nothing while someone I loved was crying, I would feel like I was failing them. I mean, isn't doing nothing kind of, well, useless? How do we value someone who isn't actually doing anything to solve the problem?
What's fascinating here is that the pushback you're feeling right now is the exact barrier most of us face.
Really?
Yes, to truly lay with someone, to sit in the dark with them, requires you to be completely willing to be without a function.
You aren't fixing anything.
No, you aren't stabilizing their life. You are just a presence. You're a witness. And the reason doing nothing feels useless and even irresponsible to you is because of how deeply embedded our cultural conditioning really is.
Because we measure everything by productivity.
Exactly. We live in a society that aggressively prizes functionality. We measure human value by utility.
Wow.
So when we translate that into our romantic lives, a good partner is defined almost entirely by the stabilizing functions they perform.
They remember the dental appointments, they earn the steady paycheck.
They take the car in for an oil change, they manage the household emotions.
So intimacy just gets reduced to a division of labor. You wake up one day and realize you're just two coworkers who happen to share a bed and a mortgage.
Precisely. And in that framework of pure functionality, the act of laying with has nowhere to go.
Because it has no measurable output.
Right. So if presence without a function isn't seen as culturally valuable, it either becomes completely invisible or worse, it's mistaken for a lack of care.
Ah, I see.
If your partner just wants to lie quietly beside you while you're sad, but they aren't offering solutions, you might interpret them as being passive or cold or emotionally insufficient.
Just because they aren't doing anything to fix the sadness? It's wild. We are so highly trained to receive help, but we are horribly trained to receive company.
And we have to look at the very real gendered dimension to this too.
Right.
Because these functional roles don't just appear out of nowhere. Historically and culturally, women have been socialized into reliance as the appropriate, expected posture.
The script basically says that a woman's vulnerability is an invitation for a protector or a fixer.
Exactly. Meanwhile, men have been socialized to be relied upon, to be the stoic provider, the one who solves the problem and guards the door.
So they fit together perfectly.
They do.
The puzzle pieces lock, but they lock in a way that actually blocks real closeness. It creates this dynamic where the woman feels she must present a problem to invite connection.
And the man feels his only worth in the relationship is his ability to solve it.
Right.
The roles are entirely complementary, but they aren't intimate. Radical mutuality, true, deep connection, requires both people to step out of those assigned functional scripts.
It requires meeting in a space where neither of you is in control, neither of you is the hero, and neither of you is performing a service.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because while our minds might be completely tangled up in all this cultural conditioning and these gender roles, our bodies actually know the difference immediately.
Yes, it is a stark biological reality.
When you look at the underlying biology, our nervous systems respond to these two different modes relying on versus laying within completely different ways.
Think about what happens in your body when you are in reliance mode. Even if you are in a happy, stable, deeply committed relationship, if your primary connection is transactional, your body is often stuck in a low-grade state of monitoring.
It's like a subtle vigilance.
Exactly. Your nervous system is quietly, constantly scanning the environment, asking, is the support still there?
Am I still being provided for?
Did they remember to pay the bill? Are they going to drop the ball?
Wow.
You can't fully rest because you are unconsciously bracing for the possibility that the structural support might be withdrawn.
Think about how wild this is. We are so obsessed with being a good partner by doing chores or paying bills or optimizing our household routines.
Right.
But because all of that is purely functional, our nervous systems might still be humming with this background anxiety, just waiting for the transaction to end.
That's the tragic irony of it. But when you shift into the posture of laying with, when you are just alongside someone without needing anything from them and without doing anything for them, something incredible happens physiologically.
The nervous system can finally, biologically, co-regulate.
Yes.
Break that down for us. How does a calm body actually calm another body?
Well, it comes down to how our autonomic nervous systems interact. When you are purely present with someone, without an agenda, you are signaling to their brain that there is no threat and no demand.
You aren't asking them to perform.
Right. Through mirror neurons, subtle shifts in breathing patterns, and even the vagus nerve, your physical proximity physically shifts their physiological state. You sync up.
Shoulders drop, heart rates change.
The jaw unclenches. Breathing slows down. It is a deeply visceral settling.
And this is precisely why people often feel so profoundly close after physical intimacy.
Exactly. It's not necessarily the physical act of sex itself that creates the bond. It is the wordless, entirely non-useful, vulnerable proximity afterward.
It is the body remembering on a cellular level that the other person's presence isn't contingent on what you can do for them. You are allowed to just exist.
Right. You just exist.
Okay, so if laying with physically calms us down to our core and our bodies biologically crave this co-regulation, why is it so incredibly hard to ask for?
That is the million-dollar question.
I mean, if I want my partner to just sit with me, why do I end up picking a fight about the dishes instead?
Because of the sheer vulnerability of having no agenda. Think about it. Reliance is socially legible. We have scripts for it. It feels safe.
Yeah, we know exactly how to say, can you help me fix my tire? Or, I need you to look over this email for me.
But asking someone to simply be near you, without any purpose or task to buffer the interaction, collapses all that safe distance. It requires radical exposure.
There is this profound idea that reliance actually acts as a defense mechanism, which completely blew my mind when I first grasped it.
It's so true, though. The logic goes like this. My need justifies my presence.
Right. If I need you to fix my car, or if I need you to give me advice on my career, I have a built-in socially acceptable excuse to be close to you.
Exactly. It protects us from the terrifying vulnerability of saying the truth, which is, I'm not here for a reason. I don't need you to do anything. I'm here simply because your existence calls to me, and I just want to be near you.
Oh, wow.
To explain why this is so difficult, we can look at the philosopher Martin Buber. He introduced a famous concept distinguishing between I-it relationships and I-thou relationships.
I want to spend some time on this because it feels like the key to everything. How does I-it versus I-thou apply to, like, the Wi-Fi and the paper towels?
Well, an I-it relationship is when you relate to someone as a means to an end. They are an object that serves a function in your life.
The person who fixes the Wi-Fi is an it in that moment.
The barista who hands you your coffee is an it. You are interacting with their utility, not their humanity. That is the transactional skeleton of reliance. You are extracting a service.
Even if it's a service of emotional support, saying, I need you to validate me right now is still treating the partner like an emotional vending machine.
Exactly. But an I-thou relationship is entirely different. It is when you relate to someone as a full, infinite, irreducible being.
You aren't trying to extract anything from them.
No. You aren't trying to fix them or be fixed by them. You are genuinely meeting their existence with your own. You are acknowledging that they're a mysterious universe sitting right next to you. And that is what laying with achieves.
So what does this all mean for the person who is always the helper? The one who is always making the lists and fixing the problems? Because if the dynamic is lopsided, there's a real danger there. We have to talk about the trap of the holder up.
Yes, this is a delicate but absolutely crucial point. A partner who only knows how to hold you up, the person who's always the hero, always the fixer, always the rock, they've oriented their entire identity around your need,
They draw their self-worth from their utility to you.
which means on a subconscious level, they actually need your need.
Because if you don't need them to fix anything, who are they? What value do they bring to the room?
Exactly. If you become self-sufficient, or if you heal, or if you just want to sit silently with them without requiring their help, it actually threatens their place in the relationship. They
Wow.
don't know how to meet your full, whole, healed aliveness. They only know how to meet your lack.
But the partner who can truly lay with you is saying something entirely different with their presence. By simply sitting alongside you, they are saying, I am not here because you need me. I am here because you are here.
Exactly.
Is it possible that by constantly playing the hero who fixes things, or constantly playing the victim who needs fixing, we are actually using those roles to hide from the terrifying vulnerability of real intimacy?
It is highly probable that we are. We use those functional roles as a shield.
It is so much safer to ask for help across a comfortable distance than to stand emotionally naked and say, I just want you to be near me, and I have no practical reason why.
This is precisely why the most deeply intimate moments in long, enduring relationships are rarely the dramatic, cinematic ones.
It isn't the crisis management or the heroic sacrifices that bind people together.
No, it's the quiet moments. It's early on a Sunday morning, lying in bed together, watching the light hit the ceiling before either of you has had to get up and become useful for the day.
It's sitting in the living room on a Tuesday night, reading different books, completely absorbed in your own worlds, but just hyper aware of the other person's breathing.
Those moments aren't reliance. There is no transaction happening. They are something older, something deeply mammalian, and potentially much more sustaining.
Now, as we bring this deep dive to a close, it's really important to highlight how we actually apply this, because the goal here isn't to completely abandon reliance.
Right. Definitely not.
If your relationship was only pure presence, if you just gazed into each other's eyes and laid on the floor together all day, but nobody ever paid the electric bill or picked up the kids from school, the relationship would completely fail the practical demands of reality.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the true achievement of a deeply intimate life is integration. It is the fluid ability to access both modes and the wisdom to know which one is called for in any given moment.
You have to be sturdy enough to be leaned on when a real crisis hits, but you also have to be soft enough to simply lie alongside your partner when the fixing is done.
To be useful and to be unnecessary by turns.
I love that phrasing. It takes immense trust to allow yourself to rely on someone, to admit you have a gap they need to fill, but it takes incredible spaciousness to allow for pure presence.
It means tolerating your own company enough to just be with someone without proving your worth through action.
It asks us to cultivate a deep sensitivity, to recognize when the person we love needs a pillar to hold them up so they don't collapse, and when they just need a companion to sit in the dark with them so they aren't alone.
Which brings me right back to that feeling of profound loneliness we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive.
Right. When someone is frantically making lists and trying to fix your problem and you feel entirely isolated from them, it's because you don't need a load-bearing wall in that exact moment.
You need a companion. You are implicitly asking them to lay with you, and they are trying to hold you up.
And now, hopefully, you have the actual vocabulary to bridge that gap. You can say, I don't need a solution right now. I just need you to be here.
Exactly.
So as you go about the rest of your day, I want to leave you with a final thought. We've talked deeply about how hard it is to just be with our partners, but think about the person you are closest to in your life right now. If tomorrow neither of you had any problems to solve, any tasks to complete, or any functions to serve for one another, would you still know how to simply be in the same room together?